"You clumsy fool," Claire shouted. Before Lila could move, a sharp crack pierced the air. Claire's hand struck Maria's cheek. Maria gasped, her hand flying to her reddened face, tears spilling as she knelt to gather the glass. The Manhattan skyline shimmered like a crown of stars, its lights dancing across the glass walls of Ethan Caldwell's penthouse on the Upper East Side. At 42, Ethan was a titan of industry, a tech mogul whose AI startup, NeuralCore, had revolutionized data analytics, earning him billions and a penthouse that screamed untouchable power. His life was a whirlwind of boardroom conquests, private jet flights to Dubai, and gala dinners where his name graced the lips of senators and celebrities. His tailored Armani suits, polished loafers, and a watch worth more than a small house were symbols of a world he'd conquered. Yet beneath this polished veneer, another story unfolded, one of quiet endurance, hidden in the shadows of wealth. Lila Morales, 38, glided through Ethan's penthouse like a ghost. Her presence as silent as her faded sneakers on the marble floors. Her hands, calloused from years of scrubbing dishes and mopping floors, arranged crystal vases with care, polished countertops until they gleamed, and dusted shelves lined with Ethan's golden awards. Her warm brown eyes, etched with lines of exhaustion, rarely met anyone's gaze, as if trained to stay invisible. Lila was a single mother, raising her 17-year-old daughter Sophia in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx. Born in Honduras, she'd emigrated at 20, fleeing poverty for a dream of opportunity, only to find herself cleaning the homes of the rich to fund Sophia's college aspirations. Each morning, Lila endured an hour-long subway ride, clutching a worn thermos of coffee, her heart set on Sophia's dream to study marine biology. Lila's days were marked by subtle cruelties. Ethan's guests, clad in Chanel and Rolexes, ignored her as they left wine-stained napkins or spilled caviar for her to clean. Claire Wentworth, Ethan's assistant, was the sharpest thorn. At 35, Claire was a force. Her sleek blonde bob, tailored blazers, and icy demeanor commanded the penthouse like a general. "Move faster, Lila," she'd snap, her voice slicing through the morning quiet. "You're not here to stare at the view." Lila bit her lip, her smile a shield, because every dollar kept Sophia's future alive. On October morning, as Lila polished a shelf of Ethan's awards under the hum of LED lights, a commotion erupted in the kitchen. Claire's voice, sharp as shattered glass, berated Maria, a 22-year-old maid new to the staff. Maria, with her nervous smile and halting English, had dropped a tray of crystal glasses, the shards scattering like frost across the floor. "You clumsy fool," Claire shouted. Before Lila could move, a sharp crack pierced the air. Claire's hand struck Maria's cheek. Maria gasped, her hand flying to her reddened face, tears spilling as she knelt to gather the glass. Lila froze, her dust rag trembling, her heart screaming to intervene. But fear of Claire's wrath, of losing her job, of Sophia's dreams crumbling, chained her in place. Unseen in the doorway, Ethan stood, his coffee mug forgotten in his hand. He'd come for a quick espresso before a board meeting, but the scene stopped him cold. Maria's stifled sob, Lila's paralyzed silence, and Claire's casual cruelty was a stark tableau of power and powerlessness. Ethan's jaw clenched, his knuckles whitening around the mug. He turned and walked away, but the image burned into his mind, a fracture in the perfect world he'd built.
Ethan Caldwell was no stranger to hard choices. He'd risen from a middle-class kid in Toledo, Ohio, where his single mother, a school teacher, worked double shifts to pay for his coding classes. At 18, he'd coded his first app in a basement, fueled by instant noodles and ambition. Now, at 42, he was a billionaire, known for ruthless decisions, laying off 500 employees to boost NeuralCore's stock, outbidding rivals with predatory precision. But Claire's slap wasn't a boardroom deal. It was a moral line crossed in his own home. Claire Wentworth was his linchpin, her Her sharp mind managed his chaotic schedule, negotiated million-dollar contracts, and kept his empire humming like a well-oiled machine. Firing her would be like severing his own limb. Chaos would erupt, and his board would call him reckless. That night, Ethan sat alone in his study, a glass of Macallan whiskey untouched on his mahogany desk. The city's lights sparkled beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, a dazzling contrast to the turmoil in his mind. He saw Maria's tear-streaked face, Lila's trembling hands clutching her rag. Memories of his mother flooded back. Her weary smile after late nights grading papers, her quiet pride when he won a science fair, her sacrifices to give him a shot at greatness. Hadn't he once believed hard work leveled the playing field? That anyone could rise as he had? Yet in his penthouse, he saw the truth. Lila and Maria were invisible, their pain dismissed by the elite. Claire's casual dismissal of the incident gnawed at him. At lunch, over a $200 steak, she laughed it off. "She's fine, Ethan," she said, her tone as light as the clink of her wine glass. "These girls are used to it. They'll get over it." The words twisted in his gut like a knife. He pictured Lila, her quiet dignity masking years of sacrifice. He wondered about her life, her family, her dreams, her fears. Why had he never asked? The realization hit like a tidal wave. His silence made him complicit. Society expected him to look away, to prioritize his empire over a maid's dignity. His peers would call it practicality, a necessary evil to keep his world spinning. But practicality felt like betrayal. Ethan paced his study, the city's glow mocking his unease. Fire and Claire risked lawsuits, bad press, and a fractured team. Doing nothing meant letting Maria's pain fade, another invisible wound in an invisible life. The choice tore at him. A clash between the ruthless mogul he'd become and the boy who'd once promised his mother to do good. He stopped pacing, staring at a faded photo on his desk, him and his mother at his high school graduation. Her smile radiant despite her exhaustion. Her voice echoed, "Doing what's right isn't easy, Ethan. It's just necessary."
The next morning, Ethan called an emergency staff meeting in the penthouse's sleek conference room. His team gathered, expecting a corporate bombshell, a merger, a product launch, or a stock update. Claire sat at his right, her tablet glowing, her confidence unshaken. Lila and Maria stood at the back, their aprons crisp, their eyes glued to the floor, unnoticed by the executives in tailored suits. Ethan stood, his voice steady but edged with something raw. "Yesterday, I saw something unacceptable," he began. The room stilled, pens pausing, eyes narrowing. "Claire struck Maria in my kitchen. That's not a mistake, it's wrong." Gasps rippled through the room. Claire's face flushed crimson, her tablet clattering to the table. "Ethan, it was a moment of stress," she stammered, her voice sharp with defiance. "You can't seriously." He raised a hand, cutting her off. "I'm not done." Turning to Maria, his tone softened. "Maria, I'm sorry. No one should feel unsafe in my home." The room held its breath, the air thick with shock. Then, in a voice that brooked no argument, he said, "Claire, you're fired. Effective immediately." The executives erupted, whispers like a storm breaking. Claire stood, her chair scraping loudly, her eyes blazing with fury. "You'll regret this, Ethan," she hissed, storming out, her heels clicking like gunfire. Ethan ignored the chaos, walking to Lila and Maria. "I want to hear your stories," he said softly. "You deserve to be seen." Maria, trembling, nodded, her voice a whisper. "Thank you, sir." Lila's eyes glistened, a mix of fear and hope, as if the world had tilted. Later that day, Lila found courage she didn't know she had. She confronted Claire in the hallway, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You can't treat people like that," she said, her hands clenched. Claire sneered. "You're nothing, Lila. Stay in your place." But Lila stood tall, her resolve unshaken, a spark of defiance ignited by Ethan's stand.
Ethan didn't stop at firing Claire. He hired a labor rights lawyer to secure Maria compensation and counseling. He mandated respect training for all staff, from executives to cleaners. Most boldly, he launched the Caldwell Education Fund, starting with a full scholarship for Sophia, Lila's daughter, to pursue her marine biology degree. In a private meeting, Ethan listened as Lila shared Sophia's dreams, her late-night studying by a flickering lamp. "She's like you," she said, her voice breaking. "She never gives up." Ethan nodded, a lump in his throat, seeing Lila as a mother, a fighter, a person, not just the maid.
Ethan's decision sent shockwaves through his gilded world. His peers, a tight-knit circle of CEOs and socialites, were outraged. Claire was one of them, her connections woven into their elite network. Firing her was a betrayal of their unspoken code: protect your own, ignore the rest. At a charity gala, a hedge fund manager cornered Ethan, his voice low with disdain. "You're throwing away loyalty for a maid?" he sneered. Ethan met his gaze, unflinching. "It's not about loyalty," he said. "It's about right." Social media ignited. An ex-post exploded. Billionaire fires assistant for slapping a maid. Time someone stood up for the invisible. Hashtag justice for the maid. The hashtag trended globally, shared by millions who saw their own struggles in Maria's tears. Some hailed him as a hero, a billionaire who dared to challenge the status quo. Others mocked him as a woke stunt, accusing him of chasing viral fame. The backlash was brutal. Claire filed a wrongful termination lawsuit, claiming Ethan overreacted to a minor incident. Tabloids spun him as erratic, a mogul unraveling under pressure. His board demanded he retract, warning of plunging stocks and lost partnerships. But Ethan stood firm, his mother's words echoing, "It's just necessary." At a press conference, Ethan faced a sea of microphones, his voice raw but resolute. "This isn't about PR," he said. "It's about people. Maria, Lila, they're not invisible. They're the backbone of our world." He announced the expansion of the Caldwell Education Fund, now supporting all his staff's children, from tutors to drivers, with scholarships and medical aid. The crowd murmured, some clapping, others skeptical, but the message landed. For Lila, the impact was seismic. Sophia's scholarship meant college without debt, her dream of studying coral reefs now tangible. Lila found new strength, joining a domestic workers' advocacy group. At a community center, she shared her story, her voice steady before a crowd of workers like her. "I was always afraid," she said, her eyes shining, "but someone saw me. That changed everything." Maria, too, transformed, using her compensation for English classes, dreaming of becoming a social worker. She recorded a viral video thanking Ethan, her shy smile captivating millions. Comments flooded in. "This is what power should do, lift others up." The ripples spread. A local restaurant chain, inspired by Ethan, raised wages and added protections for staff. Other workers shared stories of abuse, sparking a movement. The narrative shifted. People began questioning how they treated invisible workers, from hotel maids to delivery drivers. Ethan's fund grew, supporting dozens of families with education and healthcare. Ethan Caldwell's choice wasn't just about firing Claire or funding scholarships. It was about dismantling a system that thrived on indifference, about seeing the humanity in those society overlooked. Lila's quiet strength, Maria's resilience, and Ethan's awakening became a beacon, a testament that power isn't just wealth, it's the courage to act when silence is easier. This story isn't just about a billionaire and a maid, it's about us. Every day, we pass the Lilas and Marias of the world, the barista rushing your latte, the janitor sweeping your office, the driver delivering your groceries. Do we see them? Do we care? Ethan's choice forces us to confront our own moral compasses. What would you do if you saw an injustice? Would you speak up,
Even if it cost you comfort, status, or ease, one act of courage can change a life, a community, a world. Lila's journey began in a small Honduran village where she dreamed of a better life. She crossed borders, faced rejection, and worked endless hours to give Sophia a chance. Her resilience wasn't loud, but it was unbreakable. Maria, a young immigrant from Guatemala, carried her own dreams to learn, to help others, to belong. Ethan, shaped by his mother's sacrifices, chose to honor their humanity over his own convenience. Their stories remind us that justice isn't a verdict, it's a choice we make daily. The future isn't built by wealth alone, it's shaped by choices, by the courage to see the invisible, to hear the silenced, to act when it's hard. Lila chose resilience, Maria chose hope, and Ethan chose justice. What's your choice? Imagine a world where every worker is seen, every voice valued, every injustice challenged. That world starts with us, with one choice, one act, one moment of courage. Thank you for listening to this story of courage and change. If it moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more. Join the conversation on X with #JusticeForTheMaid. Let's make the invisible seen together.